Hello guys, and welcome back to our React tutorial series. In our last video we explored the React folder structure, and today we are diving into one of the most important concepts in React, which is React.js. If you ever wondered how React renders elements to the screen, this video is for you, and we're going to do that right away. Please like, share and comment anywhere you're not following. Right, the key takeaway from this video include the JSX. We're going to see what JSX is, writing JSS correctly, rendering elements in React, and of course the difference between JSX and regular JavaScript. Now the question is, what is JSX? JSX stands for JavaScript XML. It is a syntax extension that allows you to write HTML-like code inside JavaScript. JSX makes it easier to define the user interface of our components. We'll talk about components in our next video. It makes the user interface, it makes it easier for us to write user interface in our components. So the examples of JSX. So this is what our JSS looks like. As you can see, we started by defining a variable called element. A const element equal to react.createElement. And what's the element we are creating? We are creating the h1 element, and we are having the value as hello React, right? Anyway, what we went ahead to say react dom.create root document.get element by id, the root element, and this looks quite complex, right? This looks quite complex, but I want us to understand that JSX basically looks just like our HTML, but it's actually JavaScript. We want to see how we can write JSX correctly in our web application. We say JSS follows specific rules that makes different from regular HTML, right? I said that earlier. It follows specific rules. It looks like our regular HTML, but it is different from our regular HTML. It has a single parent element. Let me demonstrate what that means, having a single parent element. So JSX must have a single parent element. What do we mean? It must have a single parent element. If you look at this script, you're going to see that the single parent is the div. The div element is the only parent holding every other element, and that is one of the rules to write JSX correctly. It must have a single parent element. And rule number 2 is that our JSX uses class name instead of class. So if you're coming from the web angle, you're coming from the HTML angle, you understand that if you're giving your element a class, you use just class, which is equal to whatever the name of the class is. But in our JSX, we use what's called the class name to assign a class to our element. So we said it uses a single parent element, and here we're saying it uses class name instead of class when naming our elements. The next rule is that JSX expressions uses curly braces for JavaScript variables. Curly braces for JavaScript variables. If you look at this here, we have curly brace wrapping the JavaScript variables, which means we can declare a variable which we declared as John, and we want to say hello John. We don't just write hello and we write the name of the variable John. We must wrap the variable in a curly brace. This tells the browser that yes, this name here is a JavaScript variable and you must treat it as such. And lastly, we have the any self-closing element in a JSX must end with the forward slash. So you always have like the image is a self-closing tag. We have the image and it is closing with a forward slash, right? Those are the rules for writing JSX correctly. So following these rules, you prevent common JSX errors in your code. There are lots of errors in JSX, and if you follow these rules, you prevent most of those common errors. Now we've learned how to write JSX correctly following the basic rules. We're going to look at the differences between JSX and our regular JavaScript, right? If you look at the table, we have the features, the JSX example, and JavaScript equivalent. Now, when we're declaring an element, this is how we write it in our JSX. We have our tags, opening and closing tags, and we have our name, our content, hello. If you're writing it in JavaScript equivalent, we are saying react.createElement. What element are we creating? We are creating the h1 element, which of course the second parameter is null and the third parameter is the value of the element, right? This looks quite stressing and quite difficult to comprehend, but if you look at the JSX, it's very simple. Just write your element tags and you have the content of your element. Now if you go over to a different feature, which is JavaScript expressions, This is how we express our JavaScript. We have our elements, and inside of it, we use curly braces to append our variable, right? But here in JavaScript, we need to do concatenation, where we concatenate string and we concatenate variables, right? Which looks, of course, very stressing. And when we talk about attributes, attributes are basically the same. In JSX, we just have the attribute name and the attribute value, of course, the way it is in our conventional HTML, right? We say the JSX looks more like the HTML. But in our JavaScript, we need to create elements. We create the element, we need to add attributes to it, which of course we're adding the source attribute with the value logo.png before we can create, which looks, of course, stressful, right? So these are the differences between JSX and regular JavaScript on different features in our applications. So with all of this we've discussed today, you can agree with me that JSX simplifies writing user interface elements in React. It makes it simple to write and makes it simple to read, and also makes the code more readable. You understand what each line of your code does. So this is a recap of what we discussed in this video. We discussed that JSX allows us to write HTML-like code inside JavaScript. JSX allows specific rules to be maintained, so it gives us the opportunity to maintain specific rules, especially in single parents and every other rule we discussed. We also say that JSX uses React DOM.create elements to render our elements. So having discussed the differences between JSX and regular JavaScript, you can agree with me that JSX simplifies writing user interface elements in React and makes the code more readable. From what you can see here, the JSX example is more readable and more understandable than the JavaScript equivalent. So here is a recap of what we discussed in this video. We discussed that JSX allows us to write HTML-like code inside JavaScript, right? We also say that the JSX must follow specific rules to avoid some necessary errors. Rules like single parent, class name, appending a JavaScript with parentheses, and all of that. We also see that React uses React DOM.create element.render to render elements in our screen. As we proceed, we're going to see how we do this, all of this practical into work. And we also say JSX makes defining user interface elements easier compared to your plain JavaScript. In the next video, we'll take this further and explore components and props, which are the building blocks for React applications. We're going to discuss components, we're going to discuss props, and what all of this does for our React application. If you're finding this series helpful, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell so you get notified when we create new content. Until then, see you in the next